Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we are going to learn about floor planning. Floor planning is the first step towards layout. Although synthesis comes before floor planning, but the actual layout starts at the floor plan stage. So without any further ado, let's get started. So what is floor plan? So as the name suggests, floor plan is just planning the floor. So when we buy a land, we plan the floor of that land, right? We plan where our drawing room going to be, where will be our living room, how much space we need for balcony. So if we plan the floor of that land, we'll end up in a good house, in a well planned house. Similarly, if you plan the floor of a silicon die well, you'll end up with a good chip, a chip with a minimal area. So if your floor planning is good, then your subsequent PNR stages becomes piece of cake. But if your floor plan itself is not good, then you see all kinds of issues in the subsequent PNR stages like congestion, timing, IR issues and everything. So what all we do during floor planning? During floor planning, we finalize the size and area of the entire chip. We finalize the size, shape and area of the subsystems inside the chip. And we finalize the placement of macros, hard blocks, and we do the power planning and also the input-output pad placement. And the objective of floor plan is to get a chip which has the minimal area, reduce the wire length of interconnects, wire length of routes, and also to make the routing easy, to meet the timing, to minimize the delay, and also to have a less IR drop. So let's look everything that we do in the floor plan stage in little more detail in subsequent slides. So the most important thing in floor plan is to finalize the size of the chip. That is because the size of the chip or the area of the chip directly affects the cost of the chip. So as you can see, if area of a chip is more, then the cost is high. That is because if area of a chip is less, then more number of chips can be made out of one wafer, right? And similarly, if interconnect length is more, it means we are using more metal resources. So that's why these two directly affects the cost of a chip, and it gets very important to minimize these. So a lot of iterations are done to come up with the optimum floor plan, optimum size of the floor plan. But to start with, we can start with the utilization of somewhere between 55 to 70% depending on the complexity of the chip, or we can start with the floor plan area as the synthesized area plus 30% area. So synthesized area will be the area of the logic that is coming from the netlist plus 30% extra area for routing. So some important terms which affects the size of the floor plan are aspect ratio and core utilization. So aspect ratio is basically height of the core by width of the core, which is also the number of horizontal routing resources by number of vertical routing resources. Now don't get confused on how height of the core represents horizontal routing resources and width of the core represents vertical routing resources. See, if height is more, the number of routing resources, horizontal routing resources will be more, right? And similarly, if width is more, the number of vertical routing resources will be more, right? So that's why the height represents the horizontal routing resources and width represents the vertical routing resources. So the second term is core utilization, and core utilization is basically the area occupied by the macro, standard cell and the pad area. It is basically everything except the free space for routing divided by the core area. So the core utilization should not be more than 60 to 70%, because if the core utilization is too much, then there will be very less space left for routing, which will in turn cause the congestion. So now the other thing that we do at the floor plan is finalizing the size, shape and area of subsystems. So now what are these subsystems? As we all know that in a SoC there are millions and billions of gates, which increases the complexity of the design and makes it very difficult to handle millions and billions of gate altogether. So that's why we divide the design into different subsystems and handle those subsystems separately, which in turn reduces the complexity to a large extent and also makes it possible to handle the subsystems parallelly also. So this process of dividing the design into different subsystems is known as design partitioning, which is basically done before floor plan only with the help of front-end team, with the help of actual designers. So let's try to understand design partitioning in little bit more detail. So let's say this is your design, this is the logic of your design of your complete SOC, and these are the hard macros in your SOC. So if you don't do any design partitioning and just try to harden the entire SOC in one go, then you will be following a flat top level design approach in which you will just place the macros and place the rest of the logic directly. So it will be like a flat approach. But if you decide to divide the design into different subsystems and you are handling these subsystems separately, it means you have decided to follow a hierarchical design approach. So in hierarchical top level design, these subsystems will be handled separately and can be handled parallelly as well. Then they are integrated in the top level. So from the 80% of the logic, we are giving that 20% of logic and one macro to one subsystem here, 15% of logic and one macro to other subsystem, so that these can be handled parallelly and separately, and the other logic and two macros are here, and finally everything will be integrated together. So this kind of approach is hierarchical approach. So the next step is placing the macros. Now we will see how we place the macros at the floor plan stage. So here are some macro placement guidelines which we should follow while placing the macros. So macros should be placed based on the fly lines. Fly lines basically shows the connectivity between macro to macro and between macro to pins. So for example, if you see here, these blue lines represents the fly lines, and it represents that this macro is talking to this macro, and this macro is talking to this macro, and this macro is talking to the IO pins. So it is showing the connectivity between macro to macro and between macro to IO ports. Now how we should place them based on fly lines? So like this. So since this macro is talking to this macro, it should be placed close together. Similarly here. So based on the fly lines, we are placing them close together, which helps in reducing the interconnect length. So the second point is grouping of macros. So the macros in the same hierarchy or same group should be placed close together, because generally the communication between macros of same group is more. So that's why we should try to place them close together. And while placing the macros, it is always a good practice that we give halo around a macro. Halo is nothing but a blockage, a movable blockage. So for example, if you are moving this macro, this halo will also move together with this macro. But if you give any other hard blockage around it, then that blockage will stay there itself if you move the macro, and that blockage will not move along with the macro. But a halo is a movable blockage, so it will move along with the macro. So why are we giving this blockages? Because if you don't give blockage, then you might see the congestion at the edges of the macro. So now since this blockage is there, the standard cell logic will not get placed at the edges, and it will, for example, the logic which was about to be placed here will be placed here now. So we will not see congestion around the edges. So this is one of the reasons that we give blockage around the macros. So the spacing between the channel of macros is decided based on this formula, which is total number of pins into pitch by available number of layers by total number of layers. So this pitch is the pitch of the top metal layer in which the pins of macros is there. For example, if this is metal 2 and if this is metal 3, then the pitch of metal 3 is considered. So these were few macro placement guidelines which should be taken care while placing the macros. So once macros are placed, we place few physical only cells, that is well tap and end cap cells. So end cap cells are placed at the end of each row. They are placed for some kind of poly and well alignment. whereas well-tapped cells are placed at every certain interval. They are basically used to prevent latch-up and also for NVEL and implant layer continuity. I have made a detailed video on well-tapped cells. You can check that out. I have given the link in the I button, and also I'll give the link in the description as well. Now the next step in floor planning is power planning. Power planning is a very important step, and during power planning we make sure that we have a uniform power grid all across the design. A uniform power grid is needed because we want that all the standard cell logic in the design can tap from the nearest power supply. It should find a nearest power supply to tap from, and also it should find a nearest ground to discharge to, so that we have as minimal IR drop as possible. So these are the few things which we can decide during power planning. We can decide the location and number of power pads. We can decide what kind of power distribution network to have, whether to have a ring kind of structure or a mesh kind of power ground network, or how many layers we should dedicate to that network, and what should be the width of those power ground stripes. So all these things we decide during power planning. So this is an example of a power ground network which I have tried to show. So as you can see here, this is a die of a chip. This whole thing is a die, and this black color inside it, this is a core of a chip. This is a core of a chip, and between die to core there are VDD and VSS power pads. So these are actually the actual source of power which are giving the power to the core. Now these power pads are distributing the power to these rings. These are power and ground rings which are again outside the core and getting power from these power pads. So as you can see, this red and green ring depicts the VDD ring, whereas this light blue and dark blue ring depicts the VSS ring. So now this ring is giving power to these power stripes. As you can see, this VDD ring is distributing power to these stripes, and these different colors show that these are different metals. So as you can see here, this VDD ring, this horizontal shows red color and vertical shows orange color, because these are different metal layers and they are getting tapped through this via. This yellow color is the via. So from the ring the power is going to the stripes, and from these stripes it is getting tapped through a rail. As you can see, these are the rail. And finally standard cell is this little black color. This is a standard cell which is actually getting the power from this rail. So as you can see, the power ground network here is in 3 layers. First a ring, then from the ring it is going to the stripes, and from the stripes it is going to the rail, which is also known as S routes. S routes is nothing but standard cell routes, and finally from these S routes to the standard cell. So one more step that is left in floor planning is the IO pad placement. So at the chip level these are called pads, but at the block level these are called pins. So the IO pad placement, this decision is not entirely dependent on the layout team. It needs to be aligned with the package requirements. If you don't know what is the package is basically where a chip sits. The chip is very small in its own. The die is very small, so that needs to be sit inside a package to connect to the external world. So the IO pad placement depends on the package requirements as well. And after deciding the location of the IO pad, it looks something like this. These colored pads are the power pads, and the other pads are the signal pads. So it looks like something like this. And once that is done, so the pin placement is dependent on the layout team only. The pin placement of subsystems is basically driven by the top chip level. Based on the top connectivity, based on the SoC connectivity, the pins of its subsystem, the location of its subsystems are decided. So now our floor planning is done. Now we will quickly see what are the inputs and outputs of floor plan. So what all we are giving to the floor plan? We are giving a synthesized net list. We are giving physical libraries which contains the physical information of standard cells and macros. We are giving logical libraries which contains the timing information of macros and standard cells. we are giving design constraints. It might have timing or electrical constraints, and also we are giving certain power requirements which are coming from the design, like the IR drop should be within 5% or so. And now when we give all these inputs to the floor plan, and once we do complete the floor plan, we have these things decided. We know what is the core and die area now. We know what is the location of macros, what is the location of IO pads, and our power routing is done. So with this, our floor planning is complete, and we have seen that how important it is to have a good floor plan, because if our floor planning is not good, we will have all kinds of issues like congestion, timing, and IR drop issues in our subsequent PNR stages. So it is very important to have a good floor plan. So if you have watched the video till the end, thank you so much. Please let me know if you have any suggestions, or if you think that there is some mistake in the video, please let me know in the comment section below. Thank you for watching.